on the second,
I'm,
maybe it will
I'm
be
looking
showing
at a
pending.
statement that I pulled today on the 3rd, as of right now, 8:40 in real time. So I'm looking at it right in real time. So the fact that it says pending means that it's still in process, right? So things are still in process. But if I had a 331 plus what, February 2nd, if you're saying that it's 331.53, it says it's pending on February 2nd. That alone, even if I had a minus, would have caused a different reaction if the system wasn't actually having suspicious activity, which is overstack fees, right? And then non real time calculating.
Okay, the only pending transaction I see, Joshua, is for 1,120. That's going to be credited to you tonight.
Yeah, how about I send this
That
in an email to you then? Because it says
well,
that it's.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have access to email. However, you're asking for all of these $30 charges to be reversed because you're disputing them. And unless it's a
Well,
bank
it says
error
pending,
or
so
a
it shouldn't
fraudulent,
be there.
no. I'm sorry. I do not see any pending except for the Social Security direct deposit
That
and the debit card purchase for $75. Those are the only two that I see pending. I'm
yeah,
not
that's
sure what
where
we're looking at, sir,
we're
but
looking at my
as
bank
far as the
account because they're all saying pending from plus 331 from yesterday. So if I go back to yesterday, right, that shows a whole different transaction. It still says plus 331, but I didn't get that. So if that
okay,
was pending since
there,
yesterday, it would have went through today.
okay, Joshua, I understand what you're saying, and I know that you want these charges reversed. However, we do not reverse these overdraft charges unless it is a bank error or a fraudulent charge. Like say
You
the debit
wouldn't be
card,
allowed
it
to do
didn't do
that
the.
on payday.
However, I will grant you a courtesy reversal for the overdraft fees, but not. I cannot do all of it. I do not. I do not have the authority to do all of it because, as mentioned in your disclosures, when you opened your account, there are $30 fees for overdraft. I can reverse three for you, which is $90, but that is the most that I can reverse for you. Okay? Because there are no pending charges except for the Social Security and the debit card charge that I see today. If you see something different, then I would encourage you to go to the branch and show somebody what you're looking at so they can explain it further because the agent as well as myself has already tried to explain this to you and I guess we're not looking at the same thing. So would you like me to credit you the $90?
Yes, I would, but I am also
Okay,
looking at the same thing as well. And it does say pending.
okay. I mean I believe you if that's what you're saying, but I don't see what you're seeing. We see two different things. So I
Yeah,
will credit
that's
you
where
the
the
90. You should see that
inconsistency.
back in your account in a couple of days. It will take a couple of days before it shows in your account. However, if you still feel that you're showing something different as a pending charge or credit, you may want to visit a branch and show them what you're looking at so they can further explain to you what what's going on. Okay? But I will credit you the 90. Understand it is a one-time courtesy reversal, so we may
Okay.
not be able to assist you in the future. Okay?
Which that right there is another problem because if we do actually see something and I actually head down there and it all says pending, then you wouldn't be able to say you're not able to help in the future.
Well, you can explain it to whoever you're speaking to, and see what they want to do. But from what I see in our conversation, if it is a fraudulent charge or a bank error in the future, future, yes, we can assist you. But if it's for a courtesy reversal, I'm already giving it to you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Bye. So we can see all the pending right here. And pending means in process. So anytime something is pending and in process, they wouldn't have then been able to what use everything that's in process and pending to what I've just had plus in real time if it's in process and pending. So I still would have showed 1,120 and that would have been plus and then we would have showed the other ones pending if that was true. So it would have been the reverse way and it would have been side by side each day. So that if I overdrawn, right? Overdrawn, it would have shown -30 for the overdrawn. Then it would have shown -30 for the fee, like on actual real time days. And anytime what you deposit or send from Cash App, that's automatic. That happens then and there. So that if I deposit from my bank account from Cash App, that's instant. If I send from Cash App, that's instant. So then I wouldn't see a 2-3 day delay from what? From like, let me go back to the exact date. So this is in favor, but then what? Friday was the 30th. Those Cash App transactions, even if it was the bank, right, or even if it was a negative and I sent it, that still wouldn't then pop up on a February 3rd, which is a Tuesday. The Cash App always is fast and automatic from your bank. So now they're saying that, okay, then it has what, like a 5 day period, which then that's why that's not true. That would then be suspicious because what? It'd be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And even if it was from the bank, that still would have went instantly and then it would have looked differently. It wouldn't say pending then. It would have already not have said pending on the side of it. And it would have did that on what? It would have did that on January 30th, whether I had the money or not. So on January 30th, whether I had an overdraft or what spending, so I would have. So if I had an overdraft and spending too much, right? I still would have saw it on that day, whether the person accepts it or not, because it was sent to them from my bank. So it would have showed that actual day, and then it still wouldn't say pending, right? For 75 and 150, it wouldn't say pending today, especially if they were able to what? Take money out of my check. So if my check hit today and it's saying it's pending, they wouldn't then have Cash App delayed and then be able to still take from that and then add more overdrawn fees due to that. That's the part where it's stacked fees. So stacked banking fees while not keeping proper days on when transactions happen just so they could then stack more. While it does show that there is more than two pending. So then the bank would say that they don't see that. But then how would their side see something different than my side? So then that would be delayed banking payments, right? Because you wouldn't be able to take something pending from another thing pending. But then you would have had to plus the 331 that was already from the other day if that says pending. You wouldn't then be able to what? Then put it back in and say that I owe more fees, but then the rest is doing that. So you still could do that, but then you wouldn't be able to do that in a reverse time delay. So 5 days later from something that works instantly in the future, but then only hit on payday. Even though the payday would have paid the overdraft fees, the timeliness and showing that what somebody who works at the bank wouldn't see certain things that I'm seeing. So then on my end, how could I then trust if they say there's only two, but there's more than two? That's why he would say what? There's banking stack banking issues, whether you're what? You could be borrowing from the bank or not, but then the issues wouldn't happen like that. So posting was delayed. So the bank's posting was already delayed from what it usually does. Because if I use Cash App right now and it goes through, that'll be an issue, right? If it goes through that fast. So if I go through Cash App, right, put some money in there and take it out and it goes through that fast, that means waiting 5 days, right? So that overdrawn can hit. Bro, that would literally mean that there's posting delays and then you would actually have to fix my overdrawn, not to then act like you're being of courtesy to to fix something overdrawn. That means the posting delays would already have to make you courtesy what dispute my overdrawn just because of that alone. So if I put money into Cash App and the transaction all happens immediately, right now, on today's date, that means that overdrawn banking, even when if you overdraw and borrow, that means it's delaying on purpose. So let's see then, because this says, um, yeah, this is all from Friday, Thursday and Friday. So Thursday and Friday Cash App, they said wouldn't go from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So they say it would take 6 days to then have an overdraft occur more. But then they're saying that they cannot see what pending means on their end. So then if I put money into Cash App right now, it wouldn't matter if I don't have it or not if I actually overdrawn from them. So if I overdrawn from them and I use Cash App, but it took 6 days, if I do it today and it only take one day, that means that's the actual accounting posting delay with the stack fees. And as well as that wouldn't have been a courtesy from them. That would have been actually real life, and he doesn't want to call it errors, but accounting delays in order to favor the person that's getting more money. And then he would have seen pluses happen, but then the plus didn't happen, the 331. So it would have still been adding the 331 to the actual amount, and it wouldn't say pending. It would have say plus, but then if it says pending today, right, plus 1,120, I would have had plus 331 as well. And then you could have took from some of that. But and then it wouldn't have been doing that like it would have. Because especially if I put money into Cash App and then what? Take it back out. If that goes immediately, then that means having 6 days pending is not true. And that would be the delay, especially if they charge me for overdraft. You wouldn't then be able to use that as well on the same day as my check. Like, so yes, the check would pay for it, right? But then that wouldn't be pending then. and then you wouldn't be able to have other things doing it at the same time. Because then she would have said she only saw two pending. Mine show one, two, three, four, five, six, seven pending, and then three of that would have already been overdraft, right? But it wouldn't have been overdraft if they had to fix it now. So like they had to fix that because it was accounting delays and then stacked. Even if he already borrowed to overdraw and still had to pay something back. This is like accounting balances all happening when the bank wants it and it's not even the other parties. So then if I go today, right, if I just put what should I do, 50 or 100? We're gonna show you how fast it is. So that's it. 6 days so I could get an overdraft fee. I'm gonna put in 100 right now. So that means plus minus, right? So that means I wouldn't have to wait. And now it says your transfer was declined by your bank. So that's because I did it wrong though. So I'm gonna add money, right? So boom, I'm gonna add money and then it should go right away. Like it shouldn't take time. So he just took 100, right? That wouldn't take 6 days to take 100, especially if it's minus now or pretty soon. See, and now it says transactions from February 2nd, 2026 for Hawaii deposits may not be displaying online. Balances are correct and we're working to resolve this issue. But then how does that even make sense? It says transactions from February 2nd for Hawaii deposit accounts may not be displaying online. So how would a balance be correct then if that's not displaying? So then the balance already would be incorrect and you're working for the issues to fix them, but it wouldn't be displaying correctly. So transactions from February 2nd for Hawaii deposit accounts may not be displaying online. So if it's not displaying, how would you know if the balances are correct? Just from having that then be said. So that would also be in favor of my case. So if balances are correct and we're working to resolve this issue, then how are transactions from February 2nd not displaying? The whole thing sound off. So transactions from February 2nd for Hawaii deposit accounts may not be displaying online. So then how could the balance be correct? He said balances are correct and we're working to resolve the issue. But how could a balance be correct if from yesterday it's not showing correctly? That means there's literally accounting delays, accounting issues, and it's wanting to be in favor of the bank getting paid overdraft fees. So yes, the bank can get paid overdraft fees from somebody buying it, but then you cannot purposely what? Not show correct balances and weird behavior and then go against the client who's showing you the correct behavior. That would be odd. Especially if you got your paycheck and then it says pending, but then they can take from it already. But then they don't add your plus that was from the other day to say not pending. So they would plus your 331.53 and it wouldn't say pending. They would add that to the total. Then that would change the behavior and delays and the amount total. And then the amount of time would be way off. So let's try this. That's why a lot of times you gotta dispute the bank and you gotta fight in your own favor because there's people with millions that don't go through this. People at the bank don't go through that. So yeah, you can have not millions, right? That's okay to have not a not $1 million. But then when you go through worse banking than people that have 1 million, it's harder to keep track of 1 million than it is to keep track of 1,000. So then once the payments are delayed off of that and not the millionaires, he doesn't even need to compare millionaires. But it's harder to keep track of $1 million plus than it is of that. And you wouldn't see delayed banking issues, and you wouldn't see overstacks happening at one time. So we just sent 100 right to Cash App. Boom. We had 783.49. Now we have 683.49. That was in one day. That could even be if you overdrawn. That happened in one day. So now what? I'm gonna go back. So yeah, there is fees once you send it to Cash App. Don't get me wrong. Once I withdraw it, so that's the fee part, the withdrawing back. It's not fees to deposit it, but then to withdraw back. So the 100 just got placed there. That was only in not even an hour. I've been on this what camera recording 21 minutes and 36 seconds. So that was only 21 minutes while I was also on the phone with the bank. So I was able to in like 4 minutes put 100 to Cash App. It took it from my bank immediately, right? $100. And now we're gonna add it back to show that if you took 6 days to have a Cash App go through after it left my bank, so it leaves my bank and then it could go anywhere after I leave my bank to my Cash App, I can send it to anybody, even if it's overdrawn. So $100 just left in 5 minutes. Now I'm gonna withdraw the 100. I'm gonna put it directly back instantly with a 1.75, so $1.75. This should happen instantly. The bank what should it already minused it. The last 6 days it shouldn't have had to go through like that and then put the fees. So that means that's not of courtesy, right? So when the banker has to act like, oh, this is a courtesy, I might not have to do it next time. It was 6 days delayed, and then I just showed you one day on a Tuesday. So then that was on a Thursday and a Friday. Weekends on Cash App still can happen. The bank can still happen on Thursday and Friday, even an ATM. Okay, so let's withdraw it. So then that means I'll have $98 about, but then so 98.25 back. So boom, he took 98.25 back already. So 5 minutes he put 100 there, then he minus 175 about. He likes to round numbers. Then boom, yeah, in banking they would say don't round numbers, but then it's 98.25 exactly what he got back. So then he would be able to what see that $1 to 175 minus that, and then on his bank he will go back directly to the 7 something. So then that means that is the bank's issue. That means the bank is not actually in favor. If I could do that in the last what 10 minutes, then move 100 there, move it right back while it was already showing missing too. So it shows 683.49. Then it's gonna show 780 about once it goes back through. It wouldn't have to show a delayed time frame, banking delays, just because he already minused it 5 minutes ago. Now he just gotta wait for it to pop back in like 2 more minutes. That's like a total of 12 minutes while he's on the phone for almost 25 minutes, even talking to the bank. So then you wouldn't have pending next to things that already happened before. You wouldn't have pending next to Thursday and Friday, and you wouldn't have another plus. So look, now after all of that and the other banking error, Now they're only showing 2. So now they just show 98.25 plus with the 1,000. So by me just showing how fast that could be, now they just put everything fast. So now it doesn't show pending over there, but it shows 3 pending. And I also have the proof of that, right? So when she was talking to me, she said she only saw 2. That was in real time her changing it. Because then if I ran to the bank right now, it wouldn't show that. But then if I go to what, 2 days earlier from my paycheck and yesterday, it does show that. It also shows it on call, on video call. So then that wouldn't be of courtesy. That would have actually have to be reversed already just by me catching that. So that's delayed banking with stacked payments, right? Stacked overdrawn payments, overdraft payments, while also showing you what 98.25 back from Cash App. But the moment I did that fast, that's when they removed all the pending. So she gave me 90 plus, but that already would have been changed just due to the pending and how fast I showed today's one. So just because what it might have been overdrawn before, that would have took less than, see, and now the date is also changed too. So now it's showing January 30th. On my last one, what? The last one, it was showing after January 30th. So right here, January 30th down there. Let's get a quick zoom in, right? So then that means they're able to watch you at the bank, your account, and then move things instantly. So January 30th, because today would have been the 2nd. So if I screenshot this, now that shows that it's not even showing the 2nd that where my paycheck would have been on the side. It's just showing it on the 3rd instead. So yeah, it was the 3rd when I got my paycheck, but now it's not even showing the 2nd of anything that would have had to go through differently. So then they're able to what? They're able to play with the time frames when they please, and then have a overdrawn, and they'll say that it's the other party, right? The other payments processing. They'll say it's, oh, that takes 5 days. That's not true if my Cash App just went through in 1 day. It just went through in 20 minutes. But then it shows that all the rest was being delayed, and that they told me that only 2 was pending when I was on the phone. Then they got off the phone, but I still have all the screenshots in real time. 8:29 a.m. today. All of this was pending until I called them. Then they put it all through, not pending. Then if I go back to the other one, this is why you always gotta keep track of your bank, because even the people who work there won't have in good faith, because it wouldn't be a courtesy. That's just something that's illegal once I showed that Cash App did that instantly. So a Cash App payment from 6 days ago, right, wouldn't allow me to have overdraft fees of more. So it would, but then you wouldn't be able to put on an extra delay. So yes, it would have been overdrawn, and it would have showed that in real time. That would have been of minus, but then you wouldn't have the transaction delayed for 6 days, even if it was overdrawn, to then create. So the overdrawn would have still be calculating, but then you wouldn't be able to then put payments delayed later to then, like, I don't know. That's why it's confusing, and that's why when anytime you see a banking stack instead of on real time, so you could have a minus in real time, right? but then you cannot count all the days once you get the paycheck backwards. You would have to go in real time each day because he could have paid it on one of those days. But then the fact that you show a banking overdrawn stack all at one time, then you're saying that only on the day that he got paid, then you're calculating it all, but not side by side on the day that, imagine he didn't have an overdraft that delayed 6 days and then he paid it in real time. You wouldn't then be able to have it only on the day backwards. This is why it's hard to understand accounting, especially when there's a flaw, especially when they say on their screen they didn't see something. On my banking screen, I literally did see something. But then what? Once I went off the phone, right? It's saying transactions from the second on mine and that they didn't see all of this pending at their financial institution. It's the bank that I supported since day one. So I don't have problems with the people or the issues. But he knows that once somebody who's literally at the bank, right, most likely in a managerial position, once they say they cannot see what you're looking at, and that was in real time on camera talking to them, but then once they get off the phone with you, you see what? Transactions from February 2nd, 2026 for Hawaii deposit accounts may not be displaying online. Balances are correct and we're working to resolve this issue. A balance cannot be correct if transactions are not displaying online. And then I have the workers say that they cannot see that, while in real time on camera I could see it. And then I saw the notification pop up, and then I heard somebody what try to reverse it but say that it's of courtesy, and then try to act like they couldn't fix something of mine later on if it happens again. But then I have to then say, but that wouldn't make sense, especially seeing how can something be correct if it's not showing correctly? We wouldn't know. That's the part where pending was actually not in favor. So if something is pending, you cannot take from it. But then he also showed you that his transactions went immediately. Doesn't matter if you have plus or minus. When something shows immediately and then it showed only within 5 minutes, you wouldn't have a delayed banking payment from what, Thursday to Tuesday while having proof. So Cash App showed it was Thursday, right? Me making those payments. So boom, me making those payments show Thursday, and then me adding 100 and then minusing 100 show today. So how could the bank then, right, say that it took 6 days for something to go through, but then I showed it immediately? This is why the bank is not in favor of a lot of people when it's harder to keep track of millions than it is to keep track of less than 2,000, less than 5,000. And a lot of people owe me a lot of money. So this is very interesting behavior. This is not against me. So yes, I can say I overdraw. But then once you deposit and overdraw and it shows that it's that fast of a speed, that shows that overstacked overdraws happening at one time, but then not in real time. Is they're either looking at your bank account, then they're lying about the time of processing and transactions, and then they're what, stacking, bank stacking overdrawn. That would not happen then, a bank stack overdrawn, and then you wouldn't have the person say that's of courtesy. Especially then if I went back to, like, if I go back to the bank and I show that, but then the worker on live recording, right, says they only see two. I'm in real time with them. It shows way more than two. It shows probably about six or more. This is including the overdraft fees beforehand. So also, yes, I could put a cap so it doesn't be overdrawn. But just because I overdraw doesn't then mean that you can mess with the pending and the processing in order for him to pay more, while you have millionaires not even paying that, to keep account of their millions not getting lost. So if you cannot keep account of 2,000, right, while the fees and pending and overdraft are all not in real time, but then somebody else catches it, and then the person at the bank then changes it, how on earth would you be keeping track of $1 million and not charging those people first, for the people who have less than 2,000 to just even slide on that, if you gotta make a hassle of that? Just by default, you would even look at their bank and be like, bro, they obviously probably don't even know what is going on. So that in favor of them should be passed already. Not looking at people's banks of 600 or less and acting like it's not a million. How would that actually work in professional banking? Especially when the bank teller is seeing something else to the person using the banking app. The person using the banking app cannot go behind the scenes in the bank and then look it up and be like, oh, okay, this is how this is and this is how this one is, and then gotta check differently. That would, he cannot say that it's fraudulent or illegal, but if something was fraudulent or illegal, after I showed what $100 moving this way and that way to Cash App and back to my bank in 10 minutes, you wouldn't have a 6 day delayed payment to then cause more overdrafts. Even if that was an overdraft and you had to calculate that, you wouldn't then be able to calculate it differently and then only reverse it on the day they get a paycheck, but not the day beforehand. So they would have saw that all the day beforehand, which they didn't. Then they got a paycheck, which was I got a paycheck the next day, and then it all hits on the day that I get it. That that's literally overstacking banking and then creating longer delayed processing on people that have smaller than a million accounts. That's not even 5,000. And literally, the government and different entities owe me more money than that in general. So that's why I wanted to jump on there and actually show it on camera and break it down compared to somebody who works at the bank. He would still shake their hand and be in good favor. He doesn't want to just, he's not saying that he got to fire everybody because he doesn't work at the bank. But he would show what an inconsistency is and how that you acting like that's of courtesy for you, that's not the person acting like they can be of courtesy. That's what they already would have to do due to inconsistencies with banking and also time delays, even if the person overdrawn. That's why I had to say this on live today, because I gotta check proof. Because if they already owe me millions of dollars just from delayed royalties and delayed other payments, how on earth would they treat $1,000 like that in reverse banking payments and inconsistencies with time delays? Banking usually is in real time, which I just showed today, which what only took 10 minutes for me to take 100 out and then put it back, which showed that that actual transaction wouldn't have took 6 days from last Thursday if today's this Tuesday and I got it in 10 minutes. So the bank wouldn't legally allow to say that something took later on to happen in my bank account. So it said that all that happened, right? But then look, they changed it all to the 30th, even though they had the so they had the 150 pending and the 75 pending today, and that would have been the second. So then they went behind the scenes and then they changed it all to the 30th while then trying to plus it. which also would have changed the variable of what was happening, especially if you didn't put the minus 30 or the minus 90 in the first place from doing that, the wrong delayed time frame. So delayed payments and delayed time frames, even at the bank itself, are showing inconsistencies. Because then they put it all on the 30th. But then if you put it all on the 30th, you would actually be able to show the Cash App not happening then. And then showing that it was delayed today. So if I go today, right? If I got paid on the 3rd, which shows today. So the 3rd would have been the 1,000. Then he would have had the pending underneath it, which showing it all took from today. Only thing is, that would have been incorrect having 150 and 75 pending on the 3rd. Even though that would have been an overdraft on Thursday or Friday, it wouldn't have been pending on the 3rd, just due to a loan what I showed of the plus pending today above the payment today. So I took out the 100, put it back, and then that even $75 Cash App payment over here would have been on Thursday. Because then if I go to Cash App, right, and I take a look at it, I'm not trying to show names, but that was Thursday, Friday. So that would have shown on Friday, actually. Thursday would have been 150. Friday would have been 75. And I wouldn't see that on underneath today, the day I got my check when everything was pending. So the fact that then the bank said what the bank said is correct, but it's the balances aren't showing. How would I know something is correct if the balances aren't showing? Just that statement alone at the bank wouldn't be true. You cannot say something is correct if you cannot see it. Especially then if you show that today's the 3rd, right? And underneath the 3rd was the 150 and the 75. That 150 and 75 wouldn't have been on the 3rd, and it would have been below the 331.53. So it would have been before that, and it wouldn't have happened on the 3rd. It would have happened on, what's the exact date? It would have happened on January 29th and January 30th. So January 29th and January 30th would have been the days where he showed that he overdrawn from his Cash App, but the processing and the pending wouldn't then have carried to the 3rd. Just by me showing today, I could move that money plus and minus that fast. So any overdraft fees that then they acted like it had to be of courtesy, that's delayed banking and stacked overdrawn fees while not being in real time. So yeah, it can be delayed, but then a delayed not in real time is showing that on the 29th and 30th that could have been shown in real time, not on the bank statement on the 3rd. So it wouldn't have been the 3rd I got my check showing then. It would have been previously beforehand. That's very hard to understand, especially when they're talking to you in real time. Also knowing that there was a banker walking behind your house in real time, that puts a lot of things into the inconsistent part, which would then actually mean that that's kind of, he doesn't want to say this, but that's kind of a torturous interference. But that's also banking in real time, not in your actual favor, even though you're showing the proof of what it is, especially then showing that you could move a Cash App payment in one day, bro. And moving a Cash App payment in one day wouldn't then cause a delayed transaction even if you borrowed the money. So if you borrowed the money and you did that, that would happen on the day you borrowed the money and it wouldn't show delayed transactions. So then that wouldn't have shown a banking overstack. So anytime it's boom, 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 all in the same day, that's an overstack. And then you have to question it, especially if you see a transaction that could have happened in one day in real time. So then I went to Cash App and I showed you how I could move 110 minutes and then right back to it. While then they said that it would have took like 5 to 6 days, which then that would have then be actually fraudulent, and then it would have been inconsistent and fraudulent. But he's not trying to say that. He's trying to show the professional at the bank that that's what they were actually looking at until they got off of the bank call. Then they put everything into play while looking at my bank account. That's the only time then when he can understand what banking delays and real time not in favor of the customer who is actually banking. That then shows that that's not true while describing it on YouTube video. This also was happening with one of my credit cards, but this is only First Hawaiian Bank that he been with his whole life. So that's our First Hawaiian Bank where they told me I should come in and show it. But then guess what? The moment they got off the phone call with me, they already changed the banking, and then they put a statement that's not true up there while I still screenshotted it. They say balances are correct, but you aren't able to see it. So how would a balance be correct if you're not able to see it? That's then when I gotta actually what it's gonna sound like I'm describing things or over explaining things to anybody that's not doing banking or accounting. It's not what he's trying to do. But once you see an inconsistency, that's what you have to do. So transactions from February 2nd, this is all while they're only looking at my bank in real time while I'm on the phone with them. So transactions from February 2nd for Hawaii deposit accounts may not be displaying online. So if it's not displaying online, it couldn't be correct. But then their next sentence says balances are correct and we're working to resolve this issue. A balance cannot be correct if it's not displaying online. It could possibly, but once I find out those inconsistencies at a delayed time frame again, because then once I go down there and show somebody, then guess what? They're gonna act like then they didn't see that. All in real time while I was talking with the person. So I said to the person in real time that he saw more than two. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, including his paycheck pending, right? And a 331.53 all pending. Then they got off the phone with me. So they told me while I was on the phone that they cannot see that. Then they got off the phone with me, put up a display probably only in my bank account, and then they said there's only two pending after I got off the phone. So then if I went to the bank in real time and showed them, then it would make me look like what I'm saying is not correct or inconsistent. But that's not true. Because look, if we gotta actually look close at it, right? Let's try to look close at this in real time. That's all pending. Let me even flip the camera too, but probably not. So all of those reds right there, right? Let's go back to it. Let's take a closer look. Just so we know that that's not me showing inconsistencies. So the side right there, it also is pending the red. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So yes, you can have overdrawn, but then you cannot have somebody at the bank reading to you in real time what you wouldn't then see. So I saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 pendings, all right there. The person in real time said they only saw two. Then I had to screenshot it, and then they put this on my bank account. Transactions from February 2nd for Hawaii deposits account may not be displaying online. So if it's not displaying online, how would you know balances are correct? Especially if my overdrawn. If it's not showing on the second, that's exactly where the overdraft stack, the banking stack, right? There's different terminology for all of these words. So that would be called a fees were stacked, banking fees stacked when it's boom, 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 boom. And then they tell you that the day that those stacked fees aren't showing correctly, but your balance is correct, that would then not be correct either, especially if one of those, what, overdrawn from 5, 6 days ago, 4, 5, 6, didn't show in real time in one day, like how I just showed that in real time. So this is a longer video just to show accounting issues being able to what in real time at the bank be able to make up different things not in your favor, even though the bank is supposed to be in your favor, especially if you're not as financially aware of people in different tax brackets. So awareness, right? If you're able to financially make more money and be in different tax brackets, that's when you then have more financial awareness. So then they wouldn't be able to do all of these weird activities, right? To people who don't have financial awareness at certain times, but then to show the person at the bank that their own financial awareness by also saying that that's correct or not, but then doing it all on the third and the second. So if the second is not showing, how could my balance be correct and then it all be inconsistent? And this is a bank. So there's somebody with what less financial means who would have to check, wouldn't know different tax brackets, and then they would also show that the bank is off too to somebody who wouldn't have as much as other individuals. So then that means it would be showing not in favor, especially once they show that statement in real time too. Transactions from February 2nd, 2026 for Hawaii deposit accounts may not be displayed online. So if you cannot see this, right, then whose hand is it? If it's like, it could be mine, but you know what else I could do? If somebody else was right there too, they could go like this. And then it's not the same person. So then that wouldn't be displayed correctly if this was not my hand. If that wasn't my arm, what you're seeing then, you would say is what? Josh Ford. But if that's not my hand, then it wouldn't be displaying correctly. So if that's my bank, right? But then I cannot see it correctly, then how would the balance be correct in real time? That's why I would call up the bank and show that that's an inconsistency. And then 7, right? 7 pending is not 2 pending on their side. So then there's an inconsistency with the app and the actual bank, especially then in real time. If I talk to the person, then it shows 2 immediately, then that shows up, then other things are all being changed. And then the things that were processing from the 30th, 31st, wouldn't be showing the way that it is on the 3rd once I got off the phone with them because I got paid on the 3rd. Then it showed the Cash App statements. Then it showed the whole thing differently. So then on the transaction, it's going to show a different date. But then it wouldn't all show stacked at the same time without dates side by side. So then even the app itself would be different from the bank. And then that would be inconsistent, kind of fraudulent, and that would kind of be illegal to people who may not have what financial means or the financial knowing compared to other people with more that come from different tax brackets. While there's already a lot of institutions that owe me money, but that didn't put me in those tax brackets. So that's why this is a longer video. Still showing love to the bank, but showing that the bank is more inconsistent than a lot of people, even if you borrow from them. So just because you borrow doesn't then mean that you're allowed to, which means the bank. So if you borrow from the bank, that doesn't mean that they're allowed to overstack fees and then be inconsistent on their part and then show up pop-ups that then show that that statement itself would be incorrect because you wouldn't know a balance is correct if it's not showing properly. How would that even add up? You cannot say I have 100,000 but then not show it. That means you would have to plus 100,000 then, because then how would I know that's correct? See, that's the whole problem. Because then how would all of those things be even correct, especially somebody saying on their end versus the public's end, which is an app? The public, if anything, especially their own bank account, would be able to see more transparency than somebody that then goes to look into your bank account that wouldn't show as much transparency later. So that's very interesting to find out all while doing my banking on a Tuesday, February 3rd, while somebody else is professional in the bank, but then not necessarily in favor with people who have lower tax brackets, even though you caught their inconsistency and that's somebody of a higher tax bracket that works at the bank that would want me to go back in there to then show somebody else, and then they would look like I don't know what I'm speaking about, although I'm showing you all proof right here. So that went from 841 to what, like 919. Once I got off the phone, boom, 919. They started switching everything, putting up a pop-up on my bank, looking at it differently. When if you gotta say something of courtesy is not the person just finding the inconsistency, then that means there's people that even are in banking that aren't doing the correct order of operations that also are then bringing an ego into your own banking account. When inconsistencies from the bank already that are found by somebody of a lower tax or lower amount, that's supposed to be rewarded generously if somebody that doesn't work at the bank can find these security issues. It's your boy Josh Ford, and I gotta keep finding these issues because how is somebody that's already supposed to be in upper level tax brackets be going through that and not getting paid? And then going through inconsistencies while professionals are fighting against that while they work at the bank and supposed to fix all accounting errors right away. I just used Cash App and showed that immediately. Something from Thursday would have then happened on Thursday and wouldn't happen then the next Tuesday if Cash App already shows it. So if Cash App already shows that, right, that it happened on January, last Thursday and Friday, the bank then wouldn't be able to then say that happened on what, Tuesday the 3rd, the next, after the next Thursday, Friday, right? So January 2026, then to February 3rd, 2026. So January 29th and 30th is especially when one inconsistency went through, right? And then it said on the 3rd, that's when it went. That's incorrect because I just showed today on the 3rd a transaction happened plus and minus and go back to the bank account while showing all the inconsistencies happen right when I get off the phone with the person who works at the bank. So are there people that work at the bank just because they say that's of courtesy continue to watch your account? Even though of courtesy just only shows that they're fixing their own inconsistency, which would not be of courtesy then. So many times people who fix these issues get paid millions to fix these issues because people at the bank aren't fixing them. And people of what? Higher tax brackets aren't fixing them. So this inconsistency would be one of the biggest inconsistencies for millions of people that wouldn't be fixed. So that's why I had to fix it today live, just to show that a inconsistency that happened last week doesn't happen last week, especially when I show it in real time. And something that somebody says they cannot see seven of, that I actually have proof. They said there's only two. But then once I get off the phone with them and they say go to somebody, it would have showed differently if I only showed my bank without the video and without screen capturing all the accounting issues. Even if I borrowed and if fees had to have been added on, right? You wouldn't see the inconsistencies still, delayed time frames, and even if you saw banking stacks, it wouldn't have been in the reverse order only on the day of your payday, not showing transparency side by side. Because then, if you paid it before that, you wouldn't have seen certain things, especially Cash App transactions that don't go through consistently. But then you can show that it happens in 10 minutes while somebody's talking about 5 days ago. So I show something in 5 minutes and they're talking about 5 days that a transaction processing wouldn't go through, which is not true at all. So then reading a bank pop-up notice, most likely only on mine, would also be not true to show that my balance is correct, and that whole statement at the bank would be incorrect. So the bank literally would have to pay me millions for fixing this, because then you're showing that banking is not in favor of Americans or even people of lower tax brackets or even people of Hawaii. Very interesting that I gotta make a video this long just to say that, to fix a financial institution instead of the financial institution fixing its own inconsistencies, being in favor of people with lower tax brackets, or even in favor of the bank's own issues to just fix it. But then having the person gotta go through different customer service. What is it? Three different customer service before you get to the one that could possibly fix it before 8 o'clock, and then you gotta go to 8 o'clock and make a video while still talking to the person online. It's your boy Joshua Elijah Ford, and I've been finding a lot of issues out here, a lot of inconsistencies. And then people who would have to be in favor of the person being in favor of the bank instead, when you could correct things. You could even say, like, okay, he's still at this. He's still at this level. So that should even be what? Probably excusable, especially if you showed all of that proof that that wasn't him. So then, different financial institutions that say that the bank says different financial institutions are processing and delayed when they want to, especially if you already had issues before with your bank account. And he talked to Gene, and he talked to Tyler, and he talked to somebody else too, all at First Hawaiian Bank. Well, then he has pending that switch, that if he walked down there and he didn't actually show real accounting proof, they would have just dismissed their own inconsistencies and incorrect transactions, and their professionalism wouldn't be in favor of somebody who actually needed help. They didn't even say after that, bro, we could give you a loan or whatever, or that just for finding this, we could give you a net plus. There's hackathons all the time, and different financial institutes and even corporations that show you if you can get through different loopholes that's not in favor of the person, that's different what bugs and different things that you find in the corporation or financial structure, they pay those people generously just to find that and smoothen things in favor of people who use it.